Hello, brothers and sisters. Tony Hudson here. Hey, I want to talk to you for a few minutes on something that is extremely important, and we all need to do a better job of protecting ourselves, and that is preventing clockring fraud, keeping management honest, protecting our paychecks, the money in our pocket that they sadly, in a lot of places, are stealing from us. Had a workshop at the Illinois State Convention that was well attended, but the information I believe is important enough that I wanted to get it out to as many members as possible. So we talk about preventing clockring fraud. First of all, what is it? TAX is the time and attendance collection system. It's the timekeeping part of the Postal Service, and it generates hundreds of timekeeping related reports. Now, there's two categories of fraud that postal management can do, and one is these are intentional false edits that can affect carriers in multiple ways. The one is changes to the route times, maybe cutting off office time and moving it to street, vice versa, just to get their numbers the way they want them. That is important, but what I'm stressing today is the changes that actually take money out of your paycheck. Today, that is what we are focusing on. Now, this is something that the NALC has been working on and has provided a lot of good information to our shop stewards and other union activists, including the NALC Guide to Identifying Intentional False Editing of Clock Rings. It was created to assist union representatives when investigating grievances concerning clock rings, edits that impact letter carriers' pay. So the guide is available that instructs on how to read the tax reports, examples of improper edited clock rings, and grievance starters for help in building the file. So that's all good and important stuff for the stewards out there. But we want to talk to just the average carrier and let you understand what is going on and what we need to do to protect ourselves. It's your money, right? So here's what happens. When management, there are legitimate alterations that they have to make. They go into the system. Perhaps we swipe to the wrong route or we forget to clock in or something. Management can go into the computer and do manual alterations of the clock rings, and some of them are legitimate. Most of them probably. However, in addition to the legitimate ones, there are occasions where management will go in and make changes that are illegitimate. Now, these usually come into play in situations where you're in overtime status, you're working your non-scheduled day. Penalty overtime is where it comes in real big because nobody can have penalty overtime. So if you clock out, a few clicks past the 10-hour mark, management has been known to go in and shave your time off. Now, the no lunches is significant. The offices that where carriers do not take a lunch, it's important to watch your hours because that's one where management has to go into the system and stop that half hour from coming out of your day. However, if they forget to do that, you've worked 8.5 hours and only got paid for 8. So it's important to watch, especially in the no lunch offices. Now, what management does, what we find that they are doing is they'll go in and if to change the time, they may change a begin tour time. The carrier may clock in at 8 o'clock, and because by the end of the day they go into penalty or something, management may go in and delete that begin tour and change it to 8:10, 8:15, whatever they need to get it into the numbers where they want the numbers to be. The most common thing that management will do is they will delete the carrier's swiped in tour and change it to a earlier time, thus subtracting time away from the carrier. In addition, they will sometimes go in and change the lunch time. So instead of a half-hour lunch, the carrier took 45-minute lunch because they needed to bring the time down. So regardless of how they do it, when management does this, they are stealing money from us, from the carriers, from you perhaps, when they do that. So where is this happening? One answer. everywhere. It may not be happening in your office today, but we are finding this in large cities, in small offices, from the 2-route office to the 50-route office to the, right now we have a significant issue in the city of Chicago. And so it's happening everywhere. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's happening in your office right now, but trust me, we need to watch what we're doing. So one in particular we have found in the city of Chicago. We uncovered last year that significant Clockring alterations. And we currently, due to the grievances that were filed, we have a agreement with the Postal Service for an auditing process to find out exactly how much money has been stolen from the carriers. So there are 49 stations in the city of Chicago, in the Chicago installation. 32 of those stations we have found significant Clockring alterations. We have 3 currently members, NELC representatives who are working full-time, 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day on the Postal Service's clock, doing nothing but reviewing clock rings from these offices and documenting the errors. And in the end, when this is all done, we will have the information to make sure that the carriers are made whole for the money that has been stolen from them. The problem is that in the vast majority of the cases where we uncover clock ring fraud, the carrier themselves are not coming to the union steward saying, hey, my check was short. We usually only come into this when a steward or some other union rep or advocate happens to notice there's clock ring reports in another grievance. Maybe it's an overtime related grievance or something. We notice, okay, wait a second, this doesn't look right, and we dig a little deeper. I'm going to go through some examples of what they are finding in the city of Chicago, and it's important to note that none of the carriers involved, and we're talking hundreds, probably by the time it's over with, 1,000 carriers in Chicago that have lost money and didn't know about it because they weren't keeping track. And we're going to change that. So first of all, kudos to the reps that we have working full time. It is they've been working since March 11th. There's really no end in sight due to the volumes, because by the time it's all said and done, they will have reviewed close to 500,000 pages of tax reports to identify the clock ring fraud that they've found. So here's just a couple examples of 2 stations. These are 2 regular offices, and these, like I said, would be in Chicago. These are actual data that we have found. This isn't made up stuff. This is actual from the audit that is currently ongoing. So the time period we're looking at in all these examples I'm going to give you is 29 pay periods, roughly the beginning of February 2018 through the mid of March of 2019. So on the screen, as you see, in Station A, has approximately 120 carriers. We have identified 814 instances of alterations. And you see there on the screen, 41 plus hours of regular overtime, 249 hours of overtime, 269 hours of penalty, for an estimated loss in this one office for that 29 pay periods of just over $28,000. Now, while some of these alterations could be 1 or 2 clicks a day, if you notice on there, the average from this station was 0.69 hours. So when they're going in and taking time away from us, they're not taking a couple clicks here or there. On average, in this particular station, which is not an unusual station, unfortunately, from what we're finding, that's 0.69 hours. So also in this same station, you notice that where they're doing a little bit of everything, either changing begin tour, end tour, or altering the lunch. 391 of those 814 instances took a half hour or more. So these aren't small deductions that are occurring. Now take a look at another example, Station B. This is a relatively small station, has approximately 50 carriers. From that same time period, February of 18 to March of 19, they've identified 628 instances of clockring alterations that were improper, for a total of, as you see, estimated figuring on the regular rate of pay of almost $16,000. Average time deducted was a half hour. In this office, we look at the next slide, it shows that for the most part, they were altering lunches, going in, putting in extra long lunches to get the times where management wanted them. 151 of these alterations that they identified, of the 628, took 45 minutes or more from the carrier. So the problem is we're not catching it. The carrier themselves, we're not catching it. You notice the example of carrier A, and this is an actual example from one of these two offices. For the year 2018 to the beginning of 2019, this carrier lost approximately $1,700 in money out of his pocket because management stole from him and they didn't notice. On this slide, carrier B and C, these are actual instances. These are both full-time regular carriers in two of these offices. And each of them, if you notice, the carrier B, on average, lost about $2,300. Carrier C, about $3,300. Over 47 instances. Carrier C, the average time they were stealing from that person was 1.3 hours. So on average, just these two carriers lost on average $100 per paycheck because management was altering their time, and neither one of these carriers were aware that it was going on, were paying attention. Management was able to steal from them. So we talk about, why is this happening? Well, because there's always the pressure to make the numbers look good, makes the particular manager look good, helps with bonuses and promotion. But the most important reason why this is happening is because they know they won't get caught. We, as letter carriers, are letting them get away with this. And we got to put a stop to that. So how do we put a stop to that? Well, we start tracking our hours, keeping track of the time that our time that we're working, and we compare that with when our pay stub comes out. And every payday, there should be a line of carriers at the supervisor's desk saying, my paycheck is off, what's going on? If that was happening, I guarantee you they would put a stop to this. The only reason why management gets away with it is because they're getting away with it for so long, nobody's noticed. Nobody has paid attention. We pay attention to our net pay, our gross pay, but we don't pay attention to, are there several hours that have been taken away from me? But if we're keeping track and we start going to the supervisor and going to our steward saying, what the hell's going on, it'll put a stop to it. If they know we're watching, they're going to stop. So let's talk about it. Every time we talk about clockring alterations, we talk, well, nothing ever happens to management. Okay, so the consequences that these perpetrators that are stealing from us will never be enough. It'll never be enough. However, if each of us work together, they won't be able to get away with this in the first place. As I mentioned, if we're all tracking our hours every single pay period, they can't get away from it. So the idea of, nothing will ever happen to management. Look at it this way. If you knew that people who burglarize houses just get a slap on the wrist, they never get jail time and everything, wouldn't you still secure your home to prevent someone, or try to prevent someone from breaking in and stealing something? Wouldn't you lock your doors? Wouldn't you perhaps have cameras, an alarm system or something? Just because, what the heck, I might as well just let it go because the burglar's not going to do any time. Same way here. Doesn't matter what will happen to management because we can put a stop to it. We should, if we know that there's a possibility they're going to do it, we should be watching out for it so we can cry foul when it does happen and get our money back. So, what can we do about it? First of all, there is a work hour tracker that the NELC has produced. It is available in a paperback form that is distributed it's been distributed to all branches. It's also distributed to the new CCAs when they come on board so they can track. But we got the app, we got the book, we have to do it. That's the big step. The NELC has introduced an app for tracking your hours. It is now available on Android and it is available on Apple products. However, you don't go to the Apple store for this. What you want to do is you want to go to the NELC website. So to install the NELC Work Hours Tracking app on either Android or on Apple, what you need to do is first, you need to go to the NELC website and go to the members only section. There's a box up at the top right-hand corner. And if you haven't logged in and registered in the members only section, you have to go ahead and do that first. If you've done that, you're golden. Then go on your mobile phone to NELC.org in your regular browser that you use. Scroll down till you see NELC mobile apps. It's a little red box with the blue. It says NELC mobile apps. Click on the button to proceed. So you click on NELC mobile apps, then scroll down till you find the NELC Work Hour Tracker app and click Launch App. So you click on that, then it comes up, you have either the option of the iPhone or the Android. And what you do is you follow as it appears on the screen there. You click down at the bottom for the iPhone and you click to add a bookmark. And it's available up at the top on the Android as it shows there on the picture. And then the app is then easily accessible on your phone. Move it to the first screen would probably be the best idea so you can have it. And when you use that app, you are tracking, all you're doing is hitting, when you swipe your card and you begin tour in the morning, you're going to hit the begin tour button. You can also track your swipes to the street and to the office and that, but of course the main important things when we're talking about the money being stolen from us is to track the actual work hours. So you're going to want to track the begin tour, the end tour. It also gives you the option to indicate whether or not you're going no lunch or not, whether or not is your NS day, so you get credit for the overtime, so it calculates it correctly. Now the app will sync up with the NELC on the website, on the members only section. You can go in there and take a look at your hours worked and print reports and make alterations. Let's say you forgot to clock in today on the app. You could go in and make that alteration on there. So that gives you a chance to go back and take a look at it and also have something that you will then sit down when your pay stub is available, and you will compare the hours to make sure that you were paid properly. And if you weren't, you're going to notify your steward immediately so we can address this. So, in conclusion, what do? We have to help spread the word. Get in the habit, all of us should, that we're tracking our work hours each and every day. It's a pain in the butt, but we have to do it. Remember, we've got carriers that are losing $100 or more per pay period, and they don't know it. So it is important that we are tracking it. You get in the habit of doing it. Make your own clock rings. You should be swiping. Everyone should have a time card and should be swiping in and out your own. If management says hey, don't worry about clocking out, I've got it taken care of, you need to talk to your steward immediately. Check your hours. When your pay stub comes out, when it's available on light blue, compare it to what you have tracked and contact your steward as soon as possible if you suspect fraud. Brothers and sisters, we can put a stop to this tomorrow if we all do what we have to do and track our hours. It is our money. There is absolutely no reason for us to allow management to get away with this, and they can't get away with this if we are watching them and we are tracking each and every pay period. So Please share the word. I hope hope you got something out of this, and happy tracking. Take care.